Hello, welcome to Self-Care Saturday. My name is Nancy. I'm a librarian at the Victory Branch Library, and we're going to do something cozy on this cold February day. So get yourself a cup of tea or hot chocolate, grab a blanket, get cozy. We're going to do some reading about finding joy in the ordinary. It is such a dark time. Literally and figuratively. It feels like this pandemic is never going away, and all we can think about is next year, when it's going to be better, wonderful again. I have a hard time finding joy in these times. It seems elusive. I want this whole thing to be over right now, and all I can think about is maybe 2022. But wishing for the future robs today of its joy. I'm going to read to you a fable. It's a French fable called The Magic Thread, and it's about finding joy in the present. It's a fable about a boy named Peter who is not very different from you or me. Peter finds it very hard to enjoy whatever he is doing at the moment. Yeah. He always wants to move on to the next thing in his life. Have you ever felt that way? Summer is too hot. He can't wait for the autumn to arrive. Winter is too cold. He counts the days until springtime. School is okay, but none of his best friends are in his class, so he wants it to be the next year already. One day, Peter is walking home from school through the forest, and he meets an old woman who offers him a shining ball of thread. She explains, "This is the thread of your life, my boy. If you want time to pass more quickly, all you need to do is pull the thread a tiny bit, and an hour will pass like a second." However, she also gives him a warning. Listen carefully. Once the thread has been pulled out, it cannot be pushed back in again. You can only move forward in time, never back. Peter joyfully takes the ball of string. All his troubles are over. How easy life will be now that he can skip forward past all the times of hardship and trouble. School is too boring. So what does he do? He pulls the magic thread and finds himself out of school and working at his first job. He meets a girl and falls in love. He can't wait to marry her. So what does he do? He pulls the magic thread and poof, it's their wedding day. When he feels sick, what do you think he does? He pulls the magic thread to feel better again. And what about when he has troubles at work? He pulls the magic thread to move on to a new project, a better job, a corner office, a bigger promotion. But as soon as one problem is solved, it seems another always appears in its place. Before Peter knows it, he is an old man, and his wife is an old woman. Their daughters are grown and have left the house and moved on to their own careers and families. Peter again goes for a walk in the forest, and he meets the magical old woman. She smiles and asks him, "So, Peter, did you have a good life?" "I'm not sure," Peter admits. "Your magic ball of thread is a wonderful thing. I have never had to suffer or wait for anything in my life. And yet it all passed so quickly. I have had no time to take in what has happened to me, neither the good things nor the bad, and now there is so little time left." The old woman smiles wisely and says she can grant him one final wish. "Choose," she says. "Would you like to continue living with the magic thread, or would you like to live again as if for the first time without it?" Can you guess what Peter chooses? He gave the magic thread back to the old woman and chose to live his life again. Through each and every moment, the good and the bad, the wonderful and the boring, he woke up the next morning as a young boy again in his bed, and he was the happiest person in the world as he walked down the stairs into a perfectly ordinary day. So, what is the lesson here? We can wish for a time in the future when things will be wonderful, like 2022. But the future will also have troubles. All we have is the present. And if we can find joy in the moments of today, we can survive today's troubles. Right. We are all struggling with grief right now. Even if we haven't lost a loved one or lost our job, we all are experiencing adversity. We're all experiencing the loss of our previous lives. And this book I've discovered is about the loss of a spouse, but also it really is very apropos to all of us right now experiencing the adversity of this time. So this is option B, facing adversity, building resilience, and finding joy. It's written by Sheryl Sandberg and Adam Grant. Sheryl Sandberg is a corporate executive. She worked for Facebook and Google. She wrote the book Lean In, and then Adam Grant is a psychologist. And so this was her response to losing her husband suddenly and the grief that she had to work through. So I'm going to read one chapter from it. This is the chapter on taking back joy. So option A would be life pre-pandemic. Option B is life during pandemic. How do we live in it? Okay. We want others to be happy, but allowing ourselves to be happy, accepting that it is okay to push through and seek joy, is a triumph over permanence. Having fun is a form of self-compassion. Just as we need to be kind to ourselves when we make mistakes, we also need to be kind to ourselves by enjoying life when we can. Tragedy breaks down your door and takes you prisoner. To escape takes effort and energy. Seeking joy after facing adversity is taking back what was stolen from you. As U2 lead singer Bono has said, joy is the ultimate act of defiance. I love that. When we look for joy, we often focus on the big moments like graduating from school or having a child. But happiness is the frequency of positive experiences, not the intensity. How we spend our days, author Annie Dillard writes, is how we spend our lives. Rather than waiting until we're happy to enjoy small things, we should go and do the small things that make us happy. Blogger Tim Urban describes it: happiness is the joy you find on hundreds of forgettable Wednesdays. The author has decided to write down 3 moments of joy every day, kind of like writing your gratitude journal, but instead of writing gratitude, it's writing down tiny moments of joy. When she was doing this, she was noticing and appreciating flashes of joy. Paying attention to moments of joy does take effort because we're wired to focus on the negative more than the positive. Bad events seem to have a stronger effect on us than positive ones. Just as we have to label our negative emotions, labeling our positive ones is helpful too. And writing about joyful experiences for just 3 days in a row can stay with you and improve your mood a full 3 months later. They do stay with you. So I think I've decided to do what she's done, is write a joy journal. Something very small, something ordinary that brings me joy. And one thing that brings me joy is this cup that my daughter bought me, Cup of Happy. I have my coffee in it every morning. And for some reason, that first sip of coffee It's like an elixir. It makes me happy. It jumpstarts my day. It brings me joy. So that's a moment of joy I can write down. Something very small, but that's really what life is, the small moments. I hope you know the author Mary Oliver. She's an American poet. She's the winner of the Pulitzer Prize for Poetry, and she wrote poems about her observations of nature and the parallels between the natural world and the human experience. This volume, called Devotions, was curated by her. So this is a collection of poems that she put together. She's no longer alive, but she has a huge collection of poetry books. So if you don't know her, this is a poet that will really speak to your heart. I'm going to read two poems that talk of joy. Don't hesitate. If you suddenly and unexpectedly feel joy, don't hesitate. Give into it. There are plenty of lives and whole towns destroyed or about to be. We are not wise and not very often kind, and much can never be redeemed. Still, life has some possibility left. Perhaps this is its way of fighting back, that sometimes something happens better than all the riches or power in the world. It could be anything, but very likely you notice it in the instant when love begins. Anyway, that's often the case. Anyway, whatever it is, don't be afraid of its plenty. Joy is not made to be a crumb. I love that line. Its way of fighting back. It's like that act of defiance. And the next poem is called Mindful. Every day I hear or see something that more or less kills me with delight, that leaves me like a needle in the haystack of light. It is what I was born for, to look, to listen, to lose myself inside this soft world, to instruct myself over and over in joy and acclamation. Nor am I talking about the exceptional, the fearful, the dreadful, the very extravagant, but of the ordinary, the common, the very drab, the daily presentations. O good scholar, I say to myself, how can you help but grow wise with such teachings as these? The untrimmable light of the world, the ocean's shine, the prayers that are made of grass. Just joy in the ordinary. There are several writers that I follow online or listen to online. One of them really is a writer of comedy. Her name is Miranda Hart. She's a British actress and comedian. She wrote her own sitcom called Miranda. She was in Call the Midwife and a couple of movies. But what I like about her is that she really pursues creating moments of joy, of fun, of silliness, of play. She suffers from chronic illness and mental illness, and she is using joy really as an act of defiance, play, and fun. I follow her Instagram, and I receive a newsletter that she writes once a month. She is writing about chronic illness and mental illness, and her posts are very, very vulnerable and honest and funny and inspiring. It feels like a best friend talking to you. It's very personal. And in her newsletters, they are often formatted in little postcards like this that you can print out. And I have printed them out and cut them out, and they're on the inside of my bedroom door because the little messages are so powerful, and I've been needing them this year. And here's one that I really, really like. If there is mess and darkness and struggle and sadness, it doesn't mean there won't also be fun, joy, beauty, wonder, goodness, kindness, purpose. So I highly recommend checking out Miranda Hart on Instagram, on Facebook. She also has a website, and she's written some books. Do you know Brené Brown? Brené Brown is an author, a researcher, a social scientist, and she wrote groundbreaking works about vulnerability and shame and wholeheartedness. Her podcasts are very informative, but the one that I'm going to point you to is Unlocking Us. And it's an interview format. She's interviewed quite a few big names, presidents and celebrities, but it's very vulnerable, it's very real and emotional, powerful, and very inspiring. And I recommend Brené Brown podcast, Unlocking Us. A lot of people are doing meditation, and it really is helpful to learn to stay in the present. There is an app called Headspace, which is a meditation app, but it's a subscription. You have to pay for it. However, there is a free service from Headspace called Radio Headspace, and it's just about 4 to 7 minutes. It's once a day for 5 days. It's weekdays, and it's by the same man who created Headspace. He's a former Buddhist monk, and he's very inspiring. And if you need a moment of joy, tune in to Headspace Radio. The last one I'm going to leave with you is Charlie Mackesy. I shared about him in my other Self-Care Saturday session. He is a British writer who wrote a hugely internationally bestseller called The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. It's illustrated by him with pen and ink and watercolor. It's considered an adult graphic novel, but it's not really a novel. It's just a page after page of wisdom and joy and kindness and amazing inspirational messages. I recommend following him on Instagram. He started his book because of his Instagram posts. He is a dear, dear person. He leaves messages for people all over London. He draws a picture, writes a message, and leaves them in bus stations and call boxes, and always with the intent to make sure people are okay. He'll say, I hope you're okay. So check out Charlie Mackesy. I hope that you can find some moments of joy, some small little things that warm your heart, lift your sadness, help you get through the day. Okay? Thank you for joining me. Take care, my friend.